If anybody does have any questions as we go, on your little control panel there is a little hand to raise for some questions, and I do see that we've got a few questions here to begin with. We're going to do just video for now, and as things go, as we get some topics to kick off, we'll have we will have some more documentation. But this webinar today, the question was if we were going to have slides, if it's going to be topic slides or just video, and we're just going to do video today. What we're covering today is going to be pretty basic. I think I marked this as an hour webinar, but in reality, if this is going to last us 20 minutes, it's going to get pretty boring. What we're going to cover is how you might want to run ControlPro at the end of a season. Some of you may have noticed, some of you who are a little bit busier and have a lot of tickets in there, some of you may have noticed that opening ControlPro takes a little bit longer when you have, you know, a thousand or a few thousand tickets in your system, because it holds on to all open tickets, aborted tickets, completed tickets, holds on to every ticket unless you have specifically gone through and purged that ticket. I lost my train of thought there. I'm sorry. So it's going to hold on to all that data, and at the end of the season, you might want to get that cleaned up. We do have some updates coming out for the software as well. That's going to speed up opening the software with those few thousand tickets that you may have in there. But you know, we don't always necessarily want to hold on to all of those completed tickets that you've already ran. So I've only got about 138 here. Everybody can see my screen, right? I presume you can. I got you muted, so asking that question is not going to be the greatest. But if you can't, raise your hand or type in the message box there. But so on my screen here, we can see I've only got 138 total tickets in here. So I don't have that many. But if I do my search, we do have a few completed tickets here as well, and some open tickets. Some of you during your initial training, you may have seen or may have been shown this post-season operational data cleanup button. It's a mouthful for a button, but that kind of is basically what it is. But if you don't necessarily know what you're doing, we don't suggest going through and clicking that, because right now that button basically gives you a clean slate for each season. If we click this button, I've got a backup of all my data already. If I click this button, what this is going to do is it's going to remove all of my tickets. All of my tickets. So your open tickets, your aborted tickets, your completed tickets. So that, like I said, that gives you that clean slate to start that season. We've got some talks going of how to handle just removing some finished tickets, but like I said, those are talks right now. Hopefully, we'll have some answers and solutions to that momentarily. But so doing that post-season operational data cleanup, like I said, removes all of our tickets. So that way, when you start a new season, we don't have those thousands of tickets hanging out there. I know a lot of you kind of have a continual season that keeps rolling. So if you can pick a point in your season where you may only have a handful of tickets that are still open, because like I said, it does delete all open tickets as well. So if you've got just a few handful of tickets in there that can be easily retransmitted to the system, I would choose that time. Some of you do have kind of more defined seasons where you're basically going to have all of your tickets completed. That's when you want to do this. If you want to back up any of that data before doing this purge, let us know. Before doing this cleanup, let us know, and on a one-on-one basis with each one of you, we can go in and do a manual backup of your data. And you're going to see, I'm going to go back out here and re-import my data, so you'll kind of see a little bit of the background of that. But because I've already purged that data and gotten rid of all of those tickets, I'm just going to delete this because that's where that information was. And this is a backup that things run with, and we can import those as well. Nancy, I see your question there, and we're going to go over it again because there's multiple steps to how we can go through. Because, like I said in this in the invitation for this, I said how we're going to kind of manage and maintain our trucks and drivers as well. So there's another step to what we did that pertains to trucks and drivers as well. I am running the beta version of ControlPro. It should be going to live very soon. So if there is anything on here that looks slightly different than the version you are running, that would be why. We are going to plan on doing a webinar covering the new features of the beta version, or when it goes to live, for those of you who may not be running that. So now, I put the wrong data in there. It is not that one, it is this one. When I got that loaded up, I noticed I didn't have any tickets. There we go. So for those of you who saw, we had 138 tickets at the beginning, and they are all back again. So if you're afraid of doing this post-season cleanup and needing to look back at any of the records or any of the history, like I said, just call us. All of us in here in the office know how to back these files up and where they are. So before you do that cleanup, if you do want to just make an individual backup of that, let us know. We'll go back up those files. It'll take us 2 minutes. We can back those files up. You can do that cleanup. And then in the future, if you ever need to reference any tickets from that season, we can recall these. You'll have to call us. We can load these files back up just as easy as I did here, and you'll have access to all of your past tickets. So with your parties, your drivers, drivers and customers, or your equipment, some of you may have seen this used box over here as well. When we get into each one of these individual components into this customer, here's this used box. If we uncheck this customer, let's say we know that we are no longer going to deliver to this customer. This customer is no longer going to be purchasing from us or this truck. We're no longer going to fill this truck. This truck, it was in an accident. It's no longer usable. So we will uncheck this truck. And for this truck here, for ratchet as well, we're going to go ahead and I'll show you how we can just click over here till we get that box, and then we'll uncheck that box. And this is just letting us know that these pieces of equipment are no longer used. Throughout the season, you can go through and you can check those or uncheck those used boxes. And then if you have an unattended, that driver or that truck or that customer can't use it, but it's still going to be in the system. So you can temporarily disable them by unchecking that used box. But if they are unchecked at the end of the season, and we go through, and this is where Nancy, where that button was that you had missed at the beginning. So if we come through here, we hit Tools, Administrator, and Manage Data, and we hit this Post-Season Operational Data Cleanup button. What that's going to do, again, that's going to remove all tickets, and then it's going to remove each one of these other components that are not checked as used. This purge all non-originator data, that's basically a full clean slate of everything. So don't click that one. These two up here are if we're having some issues importing or exporting some data. So we're going to hit this post-season operational data cleanup. It's going to let us know that this action is irreversible. Do you wish to proceed with the cleanup? Yes. We'll give it a second here. Tickets will disappear. Those two pieces of equipment over here disappeared, and that Jarvis customer disappeared down here. So as the years roll on, and we're continuously working with these with this software, with these drivers and customers, trucks and tickets, these databases can really begin to grow, and that post-season operational data cleanup is what's going to allow ControlPro to run a little bit quicker for you, starting up quicker specifically. I know I didn't have a whole lot there, but if I close this down and open it back up, you'll see that it'll come up fairly quick. Some of you who have a few thousand tickets, you may notice that it does take a minute or two for it to open, because what it's doing is it's going through each one of those files and verifying that it has it all loaded already. So that's why it takes a little bit longer maybe than anticipated. But so that's one way to go through and get rid of all the data that's no longer there. If you have anybody that has some new information, so we're going to move away from the tickets and into our drivers, customers, and trucks. If you wish to update any of their information, you can do so. I know a lot of you already know how to add equipment. So as you get a new driver or a truck, to add this component to the software. But if you have a driver that maybe a name was misspelled, or an address was wrong, or an email address, or anything like that, we hit the search box to open it up, and we've got our drivers and our customers in here. And let's say Pepper Potts is actually only with one T. So we can open that up just by double-clicking under the italicized column. Or we can edit it right here in this field. You know, if her name is only spelled with one T, we can go ahead and modify that there. For their full address, we do have to open up that component. So we can double click on the italicized column, get in here, go under the addresses, and let's say they moved to, I don't know, let's say 123 Main Street. That's always my go-to. They moved, so they want this new address in here. Or let's say you want to specifically add an email address to them. So we can add email address. The name column can be anything you want it to be. We're going to go ahead and label this one as an email. And we're going to do email@gmail.com, or Gmail. I guess that's a habit. email@gmail.com, and we can click distribute. So if we want to update this driver's information, every time this driver specifically picks up a load, this driver will receive a bill of lading copy, a PDF copy of their bill of lading to their email address. And you can do the same thing with customers as well. Trucks, at least for right now, until Tesla completely takes over the world, trucks are not going to be receiving emails. But we can go in and modify a truck if we need to. We'll go ahead and save that change. We'll open up a truck. We'll go into Bumblebee. And here's where we can update the data for the truck. So if our tare weight has changed, if our capacity has changed, this truck now delivers for a different company, we can modify that. Or a lot of you might be using this equipment ID on an unattended, if you are using an unattended. A lot of you might be using that equipment ID, but what you can do is you can assign an unattended ID to those trucks as well, so it can be something more more specific to that truck. And you can do the same thing with drivers as well. I guess I didn't cover that there. So with both of these, you see we have this unattended column or unattended ID column. Let's say Pepper doesn't want to use her first name as an ID, and maybe she wants to use the last four of her phone number, the last four of her driver's license, or something like that. We can always do, you know, a specific number up there. We can save. Bumblebee wants to be known as Bumble instead of B. We can enter that information there as well. So a lot of this may have been kind of a, you may have already known this information. It might have just been in addition to some information you've already known. But for that postseason operational data cleanup, that was the biggest thing that I wanted to cover on this as we enter into the fall season, and before we get into the big spring season as well, is running that postseason operational data cleanup. Again, like I said, if you do that, if you want a backup of that data, let us know. It'll take us just a few minutes to back up your information. We'll put it into a different location on your computer. If you want, we can even pull that information back to our server to back it up. So if something happens to your computer, we'll have a backup locally. But to do that postseason operational data cleanup again is Tools, Administrator, Manage Data, and Postseason Operational Data Cleanup. If I do it right now, nothing's going to happen because I've already purged that information. But if I come through and, like I said, we're just going to unclick a few of these just to run through that again. We're just going to remove those drivers, and we're going to do another postseason operational data cleanup. Now those drivers are gone. So if you want us to do that backup, let us know. If you do need to recall that data, you know, your current existing data won't be lost. You know, we can back that up before we bring your old data back up if you need to reference a previous load. So at this point, oh, I do have some questions over here. I'm sorry, I missed them. It is computer by computer basis. Thanks, John. Well, you have a full-blown central hub, so it's a little bit different for you than it is for others. If you do not, so if you have a central hub, chances are you know that you have a central hub. I know John was asking the question here. I know that he has a central hub, and I know he knows he does. So if you don't know, you can always ask us. But chances are, if you have a central hub, you probably know because some specific training surrounding the central hub. But I am pretty sure that when you do that postseason operational data cleanup, that it goes throughout the other satellite computers, and I can double check and follow up with you at the end. But for those of you who don't have the full-blown central hub, you do have to do it specifically individually to each computer. So if you have an unattended computer, you've got your office and your remote, you'll want to do it on both of those computers. So it's just a little bit of extra work, but again, I mean, the software is always changing, and there's some new stuff coming out where you don't have to do that on each. If you delete something on one, you don't have to delete it on others because it'll push it. But always changes coming.